Ready? Welcome to the Operation Game Night podcast. Back and better than ever. Joining me, as always, is the coziest little hobbit from his tiny hobbit hole. He just had second breakfast. He's got a sign on his door that says, "No admittance except for party business." It's Clayton Gable. How you doing, Clay?
I'm doing great, Travis. I am excited to talk about yet another Knizia game, a new one from Office Dog. There and back again.
That's The Hobbit there and back again.
Sorry. I can't forget my prefixes or whatever the beginnings of things are.
More specifically, The Hobbit there and back again. The dice game of Bilbo's journey to the Lonely Mountain, spanning 8 unique adventures by Reiner Knizia. They say, not idly do the leaves of Lorien fall, and not idly do the boys of Operation Game Night convene. Today we are talking The Hobbit there and back again. A new dice drafting roll and write from the good Dr. Reiner Knizia. In this game, you are going through 8 unique adventures, plays 1 to 4 players, 30-minute playtime, with a weight of 1.92 on Board Game Geek. What you're doing is you are going through these 8 unique adventures. The box has 4 different big, chunky cardboard roll and write books that you open up, and everybody opens to the same page. You open up the rule book to that same page that corresponds to that adventure. You are rolling 5 dice all at the same time, and you go around the table drafting 1 die at a time and drawing the according symbol on your book to advance the story. Every scenario is different. Every scenario has different win conditions. It's really quite simple. It's really quite easy to understand. It's really quite simple to grasp the concept for the adventure that you're going on in that specific chapter of the book. And whoever completes the goal earns the most bonus points. Tallies up enough points at the end is the winner. Clayton, how far did you make it through these 8 adventures?
Let me tell you, Travis, I've only made it through 3, but I've played it more than 3 times. I've played the first one 3 times. I've played the second one 2 times and the third one 1 time. So I've been coming back to these adventures and playing them again with different people because they are so light and fun. I love the books. It's making me want to watch The Hobbit.
Oh, yeah.
I would say read The Hobbit, but I'm not a reader. Each chapter, kind of follows the story of The Hobbit. And like in the first chapter, all the dwarves are arriving to Bilbo's house. So you're trying to draw lines that connect all the dwarves to Bilbo's little hobbit hole. And it's just, roll and writes generally are pretty a themeless affair, in my opinion. And this could have been too, but I think they've done a great job of drawing out a lot of theme, honestly, throughout this 8-chapter book. I'm excited to turn to the next chapter. I know Gollum is the next one on my list, and it's called Riddles in the Dark. And I'm just excited for that. What's your depth in this story right now?
So I made it all the way through the Gollum chapter, and I think that is where things get really interesting. They did some kind of unique things, like your paths through the mountain with the storm clouds and stuff on the chapter prior, and then the one before that, I think it's the one with the storm clouds where you're fighting the goblins. Have you fought goblins?
Yes. Yep, absolutely.
So the Gollum one really changes things up, where you're no longer drawing paths. Instead, you are filling out blocks around the different riddles that you're trying to solve. And whoever solves 8 riddles first will finish the game, and you get bonuses for being the first one to complete each of the 8 riddles. Plus, they have the big 1 ring up in the top corner. And if you finish that, you get a large amount of victory points. I can't remember the exact number. But that one's really different and cool, and it really shakes things up. I was a little concerned at first. Played the first chapter, which is fun, but it's the same as, what's the Railway one.
Railroad Inc. Yeah.
Railroad Inc. Yeah,
Big Railroad Inc. vibes. Yeah.
big Railroad Inc. vibes on the first adventure where you're collecting the dwarves. And while it is thematic, I'm like, all right, how much of this can I really do? Like, how much life is this game going to get? And then it starts getting a little more complicated every single time. I played this all solo, except for the Gollum chapter. Played the Gollum chapter 3 times because I didn't understand it the
Wow.
first time. And then I played it correctly the second time. And then my mom joined me for the third time. And Office Dog Games, if you want to put this on the box, my mom's review quote, you're welcome to borrow, was, wow, that actually has some strategy to it. So
There you go.
Put that on
Oh,
your reprint.
dang. You can also put this on your reprint while we're giving glowing reviews. Mary and I had a game night on Thursday and Friday.
Okay.
And we were chilling on Saturday night. Normally, it would be beyond reproach for me to, come to her and request to play a game on Saturday night. But I said, "Hey, you want to do another chapter in that Hobbit game?" And she said yes.
Wow.
She did not stiff arm me. That made it 3 nights in a row of games for her. Unheard of. So
you didn't even have to do any chores to like get
no,
a game
no,
played.
she agreed to play without fuss. That's a big deal. Yeah.
Wow. So I think we should talk a little bit more about the specific mechanics. I want to refer specifically to the chapter 1 because has typically what you're looking at in some of the other chapters. While you are collecting the different dwarves and drawing lines between the dwarves to the Hobbit hole bag end, there are additional symbols. And if you're watching the YouTube video, you see them on here. There's some swords. There's loaves of bread. You have Thorin Oakenshield up here in the corner. Covered up by the person's hand is Gandalf up in the other corner. And as you draw these lines, you cannot go through the spaces with the dwarves in them, but you are supposed to attach to them to the outside perimeter. And basically, as long as you have another path that meets bag end, you can kind of just cross over that path to combine them in any sort of fashion. There are some dice that some of the die have like a T on them, and that T will connect you just as well as crossing that line. And you're just trying to get these dwarves a path back to bag end. Now, if you get as you collect these loaves of bread, you're marking those off on your score sheet as well. When you connect the dwarves to bag end, you can get bonus points if you have loaves of bread associated with those dwarves. I think the swords come in a little heavier on the later ones when you're fighting goblins and stuff, but you are precluding yourself from getting bonus points if you don't have loaves of bread associated with the dwarves that you're collecting. And then the first person to collect all the dwarves ends the game, and then you move on. You'll see up at Thorin Oakenshield, he's got a little 2 in a little kind of starburst up here in the corner. If you are the first person to collect Thorin Oakenshield, you get 2 bonus points. You can still collect him later if you'd like, but you don't get those bonus points because only the first person to collect Thorin gets those bonus points. And that's kind of how it goes as you go on and you start encountering the orcs and the goblins and the things that you need to fight. You're collecting these swords that then you are spending as kind of a resource to combat the trolls that turn to stone and the goblins as you race through the tunnels in the mountains. So kind of a cool kind of like race to collect resources and to get to the end. This first episode, first adventure, first chapter, you could really take your time with this so long as nobody is like racing to complete all 12. You can really max this thing out. Later chapters, it really feels like a race, specifically the one where you're trying to get through the mountain pass. If you're hanging out in the storm field, you're rolling this big 12-sided die. And every time you hit a number, 1 through 12, you are marking off the associated thunder clouds on this big kind of open space. And if you cross through those thunder clouds that have been activated, you start like losing health. I can't remember the
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, if you don't go into any of those dangerous spaces, you get 15 points at the end.
Yep.
But every time you enter a dangerous space, you like lose a little bit of that 15 points. So the first time you go into one, you have to cross off the 15. Now you only get 12 points if you end the game right then and there. So Just a lot of different interesting scoring criteria and things to think about as you go through each chapter.
Yeah, and I will say, having played this solo, I would say that is not the correct way to play, or not the favorable way to play. You can pull it out solo. I love how easy it is to set up. You pull out the rule book, you pull out your dice, you pull out one book and a marker, and you're ready to rock and roll. I love that. That's great for me. Uh, Solo is probably not the way to play, because what the solo rules do is, instead of dice drafting, where I take a die, Clay takes a die, Jared takes a die, and then after they run out, the next person rolls it, and you just continue until the game is over. Solo, what you do is you roll all 5 dice, and you're supposed to group them according to where they land in relation to one another. So if there's 2 that are close to one another, that's one group. If there's 2 that are close to each other somewhere else, that's another group. And then you have one die that is solo. And those groups of 2, you are only picking one of those dice to activate per group, if that makes sense. So you're activating 3 dice every time you roll, then you pick them all up again and you roll them. To me, I don't like having to make that decision on how to group them, for something that like activates something in my brain where it feels like I'm cheating if I get a favorable like landing of the dice. I would much rather do a dice draft where I only pick one of the remaining dice and then move on with my life. But the grouping, it doesn't take long. It just, to me, it feels kind of icky to like group the dice accordingly, especially if they're like equally spaced out. Like, do I take the one that is advantageous to me? Do I take the one that's like less advantageous and make it harder on myself? I don't know. It just feels bad to have to make that decision, but it is so simple to pull out and play that this will probably get a lot of legs in this household. I will probably play this for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, I think I haven't not played it solo, but I do think you're right that that probably wouldn't be the right way to play this, because one of the big pros of this game compared to other roll and writes, which can generally be a pretty solitaire affair, I do feel like this game does add those layers of player interaction that make it stand out to me. So like you mentioned, there's the, starburst bonus points that you get for being the first one to do something.
Yeah.
So there's like that race aspect there. And then the dice drafting is fun as well, because you see the die get rolled and you're like, oh man, I really need that bread. I hope they don't draft that bread. So I mean, it's minimal interaction, but it's still there and you still care what other people are doing. And the best part about it is, and you touched on it a little bit, is you can really fiddle fart around and try and go, like you can see, you can score 180 points for this one section. And Mary, she loves to fiddle fart around and try and fight every single goblin to get all the points.
Yep.
And do that. And I try to push the end game. Like if there's a path I'm trying to make to the end, I'm trying to make that path in the straightest line possible, not taking the detours and scoring all those extra points. And that puts the pressure on her to not, fool around. Like in part 3, there's a little cave you can go into. And if you really went around the cave, you can eat all this bread and you can score all these points at the end. But I had gotten out ahead of her, and it forced her to have to kind of skip over that part to try and somewhat keep up, because I mean, she could maybe still win if I got way out in front, but there's enough things that I would have gotten to score for that it kind of does put the pressure on you, and you have to pay attention to where other people are and what kind of points they might be scoring. So yeah, I really love that part about this game.
Yeah, and they try and make this like artificial pressure on the player by limiting the amount of rounds you play when you play solo. So every time you pick up the dice and you roll them, you're moving Bilbo. He has like a little token in the box. You move him forward one of the rounds, and on certain rounds, you will have to eliminate bonuses from the board, whether it's like the Thorin Oakenshield bonus or the Gandalf bonus, or crossing one of these lines bonus, like here on the YouTube video. Once you get out of the storm field, if you're the first one to get through this line that divides the storms and the bread on chapter 3 or part 3, you get 2 bonus points. I don't know why I zoomed in, but on certain rounds you have to eliminate those bonuses. And then once you get to round 8 or 9 or whatever it is for that solo version, the game ends immediately. You tally up your score. The odd thing to me, besides trying to artificiate this pressure on the player, is that there's no like comparative score. I really don't like games that do this, where they're like, oh, if you scored 100 points, you are excellent. You're the top Hobbit. And then if you scored 10 points, you're a Sackville Bagginses, or, whatever. I don't like that. It doesn't motivate me to do better. Like, sure, if I keep a running log of all my scores, that might motivate me, but comparing it to some arbitrary scale never feels great to me. They don't do that at all in this game, which feels weird. They do have hard modes, like it alters the rules a little bit. I'm not going to get into it because I don't know the specifics, but each of the adventures, it will alter the rules just a little bit to make it slightly harder. You can play hard mode with your friends. You can play hard mode solo. I don't know a whole lot about that. I've only kind of just walked through the game itself, but it's cool that it has a little bit of replayability where you can really push yourself a little bit and see if you can overcome those challenges. But I think for me, I think the real pressure comes from you versus the game. And that really starts to ramp up in part 3, where you're racing through the storm clouds because you don't want to lose points. You're racing through this like gauntlet of goblins at the very end to get to the exit. Like, that felt like pressure to me, as you're running out of the swords that you're expending as you're fighting off these goblins. That felt like pressure, and that felt like pretty good to overcome. What do you think, Clay?
No, I'm just delighted again, just looking at this storm cloud episode and remembering that part of the movie. Like it seriously feels like the movie when you're going through that troll cave, and then there's the big troll that you have to defeat. But the only way you can defeat it is you have to have had 3 magic hat symbols to get your Gandalf staff that can defeat the troll. So they do everything they can do to inject theme into a roll and write, and I'm here for it. Like, roll and writes were a genre I like burnt hot and fast on when I first got into the hobby. I wanted them all, and then I quickly was like, yeah, these kind of stink. It's like a solitaire kind of boring experience, and I haven't bought any in a long time. And then this came out, and it's by Knizia, so of course, and it has an IP that I enjoy. So I'm gonna give it a try, and I'm glad I did, because this game is getting up there. One of my favorite games of all time, and I didn't mention it in the last one. No, not this game.
Oh.
I'm saying one of my favorite games of all time is My City.
Oh.
And it was like a top 5 game for me in the year and years after I had played through that campaign. Because I loved it was such a simple core gameplay, and it changed up just enough every single episode that it was engaging and you wanted to see what was around the next corner. And that's exactly the exact same feelings I've been having playing this game. It's a light, like 30-minute experience at 2 players. And the next episode, you said it's more complicated, maybe a little more complicated, but I think it's just a little different. Like, a lot of things are similar between the episodes, but it just tweaks it up enough that you just want to keep playing through it. And even if I only play through all 8 chapters, I think I'll still have gotten one of the better gaming experiences I've had in a long time. One, because Mary and I are enjoying it together, going through each of these episodes. And that always, means a lot to me when I have a game that we both like playing on a weeknight. It's easy to get out, and it's, fun to play a quick 30-minute game. So I see this one being like, at the end of the year, this is going to be one I'm going to remember. I'm already excited to do the Gollum chapter, especially after hearing you tell me like you don't draw paths. Sounds super interesting. I will throw in one bit of negative caveat here, and this might just be me, but I was a little confused by the path drawing. And I mean, I think I understand it, but as I stand here right today with 5 plays in, I could be convinced I'm not doing it 100% correct, because you can you can start from certain starting places, and then you can obviously extend a path, which makes sense. But then you can kind of draw over other paths and like retrace lines and cross over old paths. And I think I'm doing it right, but it's not the most intuitive thing at first when you're doing that, like crossing over other paths. But it kind of, once you figure it out, it'll persist through the rest of the campaign, I hope. And is this a campaign game? I don't know. The rest of the story.
Yeah. I think that they rely on that like deceptive simplicity of roll and writes, and they kind of underexplain themselves at some points. Like the Gollum one, I had to start over. I got like halfway through what I assumed was the chapter of like the Gollum chapter, and I went like, I don't think I'm doing this right, and I had to like kind of reread the rules a couple times just because they leave just enough ambiguity in the rule book where it causes a little bit of confusion. They do have a couple videos out there to watch that really explain it pretty well. You open up the rule book and boom, there's like a QR code to scan and watch and learn how to play. The one thing that I do want to shout out is the artist, which is Lorenzo Colangeli. Colangeli. I'm mispronouncing that, but I love his art. He does a great job.
Yeah.
He has a whole like portfolio of stuff, and they could have easily just clipped movie clips and thrown it on a rule book, and I'm glad that they did not. This guy has really striking art. It kind of gives me like Steven Universe vibes, which I really love. I want to show his he has an ArtStation page that I want to share because it's really cool. This is going to make for bad podcasting, but I do want to show at least the YouTube viewers on ArtStation. He has this whole like portfolio of Lord of the Rings art that's really striking and cool, and all the characters are like all out of proportion. They're great. I really appreciate the level of care and detail that he put into his art. I think it's striking. I think it represents kind of the childlike wonder of hobbits and their perception on the world. The hobbits and the dwarves kind of look very normal, but the orcs are very like grotesque and strange looking. So I think it's great. I think it's a cool art style, and they could have done something really boring, and they decided to elevate the game with the art. So shout out to Lorenzo and his artwork because it is spot on.
Shout out to Office Dog because they're going to ride this IP into the ground, baby.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm here for it. Like, they got the trick-taking games out. Now they're throwing out this little ditty of a roll and write. Keep it coming, Office Dog. If you're going to take this much care with those intellectual properties, I'll keep buying. And they know
I will
that.
say, and if you're going to keep making Lord of the Rings games, pick a different beginning to the name than Lord of the Rings. If I type in Lord of the Rings into Board Game Geek, wow, I cannot talk today. You're going to get 175 different entries that are all confusing and have similar names. I love that it is The Hobbit, There and Back Again. It makes it stand out. It's easy to find. I love that. Man, this is a good fall game. This is a good game for fall.
Yeah.
So is The Hobbit. So is Lord of the Rings. So I think we did it. I'm going to go cozy up in my Hobbit hole and start another Lord of the Rings marathon.
Heck yeah.
It's good. It's good for fall. It's good for cloudy weather. Go grab yourself a second breakfast and watch the Lord of the Rings and play The Hobbit, There and Back Again by Office Dog Games.
Hey, and I think it's worth coming back after we've finished all 8 chapters. We should come back and do a follow-up episode. This is our initial thoughts, 3 or 4 chapters in, but we'll give you the final rundown when we finish it.
Just like a certain director, we might just split this game up into 3 different episodes instead of just containing it to one 20-minite episode. We'll just really stretch this out to get the viewers' money's worth. How about that?
There we go.
All right. All right. This has been Operation Game Night. I have been Travis Smith. He has been Clayton Gable. This has been The Hobbit, There and Back Again by Office Dog Games, and we're out.